Welcome, everybody, to Why Are You an Entrepreneur, our weekly series. I am so happy if you are tuning in right now. I am Maureen Edwards with 8 Simple Steps. And for those of you tuning in for the first time or watching the replay, I created this live series to not only introduce you to some rock star entrepreneurs, hear their stories, get some best practices, pick up some resources and some tools, but also allow you to meet people who are just outstanding in what they do. Because we all know being an entrepreneur is really, I think, one of the hardest things you can do. And they're here to help you. So I say it every week. I've got another rock star for you. Please, everybody, welcome David White. He's an audio and video extraordinaire and the podcast co-host of Permission to Win. David, welcome.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me on this little journey.
Well, you're on a couple journeys here that I think you can help some people out with. So I always start out with asking my guests, why are you an entrepreneur and venturing even into this? Because I know you've got some other things that you do, so you're fitting this in. So explain to me how this has come about.
This is kind of my first love, I guess. I thankfully am able to do what I do as a side hustle for a day job as well. It's not my day job. I mean, that said, it is for a company. It's not for my company, but I get to do it all the time, so I enjoy it. The uh, the thing I like to do is problem solve, and from an
Mm.
audio visual standpoint, um, as anybody that's tried it, there's a lot of problems that can creep up, and I like solving those problems.
Well, you have an amazing voice too. Tell me a little bit about the voiceover stuff that you may
hmm
be involved in. Like,
I am also doing that. I started doing that more quote unquote professionally starting in around 2015. I realized, I've been doing this my entire career because the most convenient voice to me happened to be my own. So that that was convenient, and so I realized I've been doing this for all this time. Why don't I do it for other people for a gig? And so I've endeavored that, gotten quite a bit of training, worked my way through, working on projects. Got some. I've worked for, of course, my day job, folks. I work at ServPro for my day job, but I've gotten to work for Dollar General. I've gotten to work for the Epilepsy Foundation. I've gotten to work for a number of neat opportunities that just, they're e-learning, they're in-house training for the most part, but they're exciting little things.
so tell me how you're balancing, you have a big job during the day
hmm
and you have people who want your services outside of probably not a lot of window of time. How are you juggling, both the big job, and we call it a side hustle. And I have
Right.
said, I've got to come up with a new name for this. I say it every time somebody tells me they have a side hustle, because a side hustle makes it seem like you're not very serious about it. You're doing it for maybe extra money to take a vacation. But most
Right.
people are in a side hustle with, the idea of the future, that this could be their future. And that's why I don't think the side hustle words are like really describing it. But
Maybe apprenticeship. You're working for yourself in an apprenticeship, and hopefully you're getting your training as you go, and you're learning how to do the things. The I heard someone say it, and I cannot remember who it was, but your full-time job is what funds your apprenticeship. They said
bam.
they said side hustle, of course, but that's where that you don't get a loan for your side hustle. You have a
Nope.
day job, and that is what funds the other as you learn and grow again. Because you know, years and years ago, when people actually did true apprenticeships, I mean, you were brought in, you lived with the shop owner, you learned a craft or a trade, and then you took over. That was the kind of the thing, but
Yeah.
you didn't maybe earn as much, but you didn't have the expenses either. Right now we all have, uh, cell phone bills and car payments and whatever it is, and all those things are getting more and more expensive. And so, the side hustle for some folks is getting almost necessary to some degree.
It is very true. And it's amazing how many side hustles actually turn into, you know what? I'm taking control of my destiny. I've now built it up. May have taken a little bit longer, but you're right. It was funded by
Mhm.
something else to allow you to make the mistakes, to
Mhm.
test the market, see, get a few clients, see if this is going to be viable. And the majority of them really have done it the right way. And it is viable. It just maybe takes a little bit of time.
I encourage people. My brother-in-law uses a term when he would ask my kids, "Hey, what are y'all thinking about, being when you grow up?" And one of them responded, "Well, I can see myself doing X, Y, or Z." And his response was, in the nicest way possible, "I can see myself on the moon.
But
I haven't efforted toward getting to the moon. What have you done to effort
yeah,
toward learning that craft or doing that thing to see if you even like it? You might not like it on the moon. You've got to figure out." And our friend Miss Kim White helped us see, what is it you don't want to be doing
right,
first. Figure
right.
that out, and
Mhm.
then once you've kind of figured out what you don't want to do, add that to what you do want to do, and then start figuring it out from there. I'll add one little point here. Met an Uber driver while I was in Dallas, and he was explaining that he had like three-quarters of a kinesiology degree.
Mm.
So he was, manipulating muscles and doing PT and things like that. And I said, "Why do you have three-quarters of a degree and you're driving Uber?" He goes, "When I got to the point where I was actually touching people, I hated it."
And he went 3/4 of the way there and just figured it out. And then you sit there and go, "Oh my gosh, all that time if I had just done it earlier, all that money."
Yeah. And so that's what your entrepreneurial apprenticeship is about, learning what do I want to do? What part of So there in my world, audio video production, I do edit podcasts, I do some voiceover, I do video productions. There's aspects of different ones of those that I like more than the other, and some of them pay better than others. And if I could get that part of the ball rolling, then, that becomes the potential for the full-time job.
Well, you said something like so valuable here for those people out there who are venturing into entrepreneurship. We talk about how hard this is.
Hmm.
This journey is not easy, but what you're saying really is test to see if you even like entrepreneurship. Not necessarily the company you've created here, but just the whole art of it, the whole science of it, the whole
Hmm.
thing of it, because you may find that working for corporate has a lot of advantages.
Oh, it really does, especially, I went and got a quote for, I have type 2 diabetes, and got a quote from my insurance company for uh, carrying some new life insurance, and it was around $500 a month. And I was like, I don't know that I can afford that,
Yeah,
to do. That changes the lifestyle that I have to create.
right.
Uh-oh. What we've had is the fire alarm go off when the oven has been in use in the other room.
I am sorry, everybody. Okay, this is a first, David, and I'm so glad it's with you because, we're friends and, as Kim would say, it's messy. This is behind the scenes stuff, everybody, that we go through, everybody does. And with technology today, it could either be going down or you could get a fire alarm. So I apologize for that. I tried to hit mute really quickly, but so David, this is definitely a part that you're going to cut and edit, right?
I would, yes, I would edit
Yes.
this out and it would just be exciting. We started a podcast the other day for Permission to Win, and we just started talking, and we kept talking, and we kept talking, and then we kind of got to the end of the 30 minutes and realized we'd never started the show.
Oh, no way.
So we just introduced the beginning of the show at the end and left it like that. So
Awesome.
Carrie thought it was well deconstructed. So
D-
it was
And that's a
enjoy.
good word too. So
Hmm.
tell me what you think is the hardest part of owning your own company or having this endeavor, being an entrepreneur the way you are right now.
I have not developed my company to the point where I am, well, willing is the right word. I'm going to use the word able because that makes me feel better about myself. I'm not at the point where I am able to pay somebody to do the things that I don't want to do or I'm not good at.
Hmm.
That is such a bandwidth changer.
Yeah.
When you've got the bandwidth to be able to focus on the part that you like.
Yeah.
For instance, you've decided that you're going to make a quote unquote podcast or a vodcast or whatever you want to call it, a live stream. And that's the way you want to do it. You put a little bit of pre-production in the front. You don't want to take the time in the back end, but now you've got this document that will live on and it's valuable to people and they can enjoy it. I've chosen to do a standard podcast where I record it, then we go and we edit it and come back. So, because I enjoy the editing aspect of it.
Right.
So, make choices that either you don't do what you don't like or you pay someone else to do it.
Right. And it's hard when you're first starting out because your resources are more limited.
That's right.
So, how do you find yourself juggling as to what is a priority and what you can't afford to do so it kind of sits to the side?
Well, right now in my business, I don't have a lot of bookkeeping. I'm not doing a lot of social media. I'm not doing like live posts and things like that. Those are the kinds of things that I could do, but I don't really think I enjoy.
Yeah.
And so definitely I'm working with a close friend of mine who does social media. I'm going to start working with him to see if I can't, exchange services and do some multimedia, not multimedia, multimedia services for him and let him do some of my social media.
You know
And
what? This is super important, though, what you've said. And for people who are tuning in, and you do have limited resources, right? And you
mhm,
are having to juggle things. I always say stay in your lane. Pay the people to do the things you cannot do because you
mhm,
can't do everything or you don't like to do because when you don't like to do something, you make a lot of mistakes, you just spin your wheels and you don't get anywhere. But one
mhm,
of the best things you can do is kind of this bartering system between entrepreneurs. Maybe somebody else is doing a side hustle
mhm,
or has a company and could definitely use your services and vice versa.
mhm.
I mean, this is a great way to get the stuff done because you have to do social media. I mean, let's
Right.
face it, you've got to promote your business if it's going to grow.
Yes.
Marketing is part of it. So this is really good information for people to go ahead and also you build portfolios for each other, right?
Right.
He's going to use you to
Mhm,
broaden his portfolio as a client
mhm.
and vice versa. So it's a win-win until you do make enough money. But the one thing is marketing, you can't go without the marketing funds. You'll never get the full traction
Right.
to move it. Is there a certain marketing platform though that you see your business would be most appropriate for, or you have had some success that you like?
I've had a little bit of success on Instagram doing some reels, uh,
Okay.
basically using my voice, putting my voice out there for other people to pick up to kind of become, we'll call it IG famous, and just be able to put that on a resume because it doesn't pay the bills, but that again, it builds some social media and some cred. But for my e-learning and training corporate video voiceover work, uh, LinkedIn, I think, is going to be the platform of choice. That's where it makes sense to do uh, directly connect with those folks who are either e-learning professionals or corporate training professionals, or they have been voluntold to become one. So,
Absolutely right. LinkedIn is my favorite platform. Um, I'm doing educational rooms on that in Clubhouse, and I have a workshop coming up because a lot of people find LinkedIn to be a little bit intimidating, or their
Hmm.
perception is that it's just when I need to go find a job.
Hmm.
Not the case. Your company page that you create is going to be, really a big step in the right direction. Perfect social media channel for you.
And any of those, I mean, I'm not the marketing guru, but any of those pages, it's worth getting somebody to help you build those out.
Yeah.
And if you have to barter those services, that's fine. But just, you know, listen to the experts who've done it and had success with it, and get their input to be able to build out your page the right way, to draw the
Yes.
eyeballs, those types of
Yes.
things.
You can only Google and YouTube your way through creating a business, take it so far. I always say, if your car broke down on the side of the road, would you get out and start Googling and YouTubing how to fix it? Like, if I know nothing about video production, David.
Hmm.
Absolutely zippity do. Nor do I want to. Like, we're talking about staying in our lane. It interests me about like 0%. So why would I suffer? Right? I would call somebody like you, call an expert in who can get it done 10 times faster,
Hmm.
10 times better, 10 times less stress, right? And barter the services if you need to as a new entrepreneur. That's like
And
brilliant.
I'll expand on that example. One of the new trends right now in voiceover is AI,
Mm,
artificial intelligence, and the fact that you've watched Instagram Reels and things like that, and you can hear that voice that just reads the text on the screen, and you know that that is obviously a person who is being mechanically created. Well, companies do this with their training. And to me, my whole basis of training and marketing, people remember messages that move them emotionally.
yes.
And so that type of a voice can't. It moves you in the wrong emotion, if
Yep.
if anything. Now that said, and your kitchen just reminded us of this, there are certain messages that it doesn't really matter. There's a fire. Get out. You don't
Exactly.
care how that message comes to you. But if it's a message that you want to change somebody's behavior, or help critical thinking processes, or whatever like that, you need a voice that connects with them.
Mhm.
Hire me, don't hire me, it doesn't matter. That's the beauty of voiceover, is the voice that you hear in your head that you want to hire them,
Right.
if you can afford them. And that's the idea that you're looking for. But for instance, I will refer to a script that I just recorded last night. Um, one of the things that came up was the script said it was a 50x improvement.
50
Well,
times.
is that 50 times, or do they want me to say 50x?
Okay.
And it
What
could
do
have
they
been
want?
exactly. So my option, I just went ahead and recorded both. And
Okay.
now they can choose the one that they want. An AI, you're going to have to think that through. You're going to have to add that thing. So I'm a verified human. I've checked almost every day for the last 50 some odd years, and still a verified human. And that's what you hire. What's what you get when you hire a quote unquote professional. And a professional may be somebody who knows 20% more than you do.
Right. Which isn't a good amount when you think about it.
It could be, yeah.
So tell me, as somebody pursuing entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
what have you felt has been your greatest success so far in this endeavor?
Well, as you know, where we met was in a mastermind group. And the things that I didn't understand or know about business, I went to this mastermind group and got that support to help me understand. Because I've been I've lived behind a corporate wall my entire career, so
Yeah.
I don't understand business. So that to me was the biggest success so far, is narrowing down that I'll do anything for money mentality, and get it down to I will do these things for money mentality, because I don't want to do those things. they bother me, or whatever they are. I don't want to go out and do those things again. I, for instance, I don't ever want to shoot a wedding ever again. I really don't. It's so much work. There are people who love it. That's great, and that's the ones you should hire.
So it's boundaries. You learned
There you go.
boundaries. You've learned the ideal client you never want to work with.
Right.
You
Right.
narrow it down. This is who I am never ever going to
Mm-hmm.
go work with, no matter how
Mm-hmm.
much money they pay me.
Well, there's a point, but no, but again, I mean, even a $3,000 or $4,000 wedding, it's just so much grief and it's so much stress. Another thing I've gotten to understand about myself is I want to try to limit my choices on any particular project that I do. So I don't want to have a million different ways to do 1,000 different things.
Hmm.
I like the idea of the voiceover stuff because they hand me a script. Now there's some variation that I can throw in there, but they hand me a script and that's what they want done. If I create a video from scratch and they say I just need a video, here, take this and this and one of these and I need a video. Just can you create a video from that? Well, I can if any part of it matters to you.
Right.
So there's just limit my decision making and I'll be happier.
So do you feel like joining a mastermind or a coaching group you would recommend for people to
I
do that?
do. I do. Again, get the coaching that you need. If you don't know how to do a thing, there are ways on YouTube to be able to go and search a thing. Back to the car analogy. If you don't know how to change the brakes on your particular car, but you know how to change brakes, then go watch the YouTube video and just get the tweak to
Right.
understand the different nuances. But if you've never changed brakes on a car, please don't do that.
Good point.
Stopping is important.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this amazing podcast that you created.
Mm-hmm.
You want to
Well,
share?
I would be glad to share about that. My mastermind group leader, Kim White, your mastermind group leader, Kim White, and we decided that we were going to create a podcast because part of her logic was you edit so many podcasts. Why don't you have one? Well, I was like, I don't have anything to talk about. And so that's what happens between these two headphones here. That's the
Yeah.
logic that comes out right there. Uh, I will say that I have learned about myself over the last several years that I do function well here in the middle. I'm out here on the edges. I'm never going to initiate much, and follow through is not always the best part. But right here in the middle, I excel.
You're amazing.
Yes, let's say that.
Yeah, let's call it what it is because I've seen it in action. But you know
Okay.
what's good about this, David, is you know yourself. Like some
Yes.
people kind of know it deep down inside, but they won't admit it, they won't face it, and then they really never excel at the stuff that they're really good at.
Well, the beauty again, I go back to coaching and finding the mentors. Somebody explained that to me. And I told them, I was like, I'm not good over here. I'm not good over there. And I feel like a failure. They're like, no, you function right here in the middle and you make all the dots and I's and T's and all those things go in the right place. You're not worried about initiating a creative, fun, crazy idea. You're not worried about the BHAG. You're initiating and making, not initiating, you're making sure it gets done and
Right.
done well because you can see the beginning, but you can also see the end. Anyway, that
But
said,
you like the middle though. That's what
right,
you thrive in.
that's
Again,
the
when I
key.
say to people, do what you love and like,
Hmm.
because if you're doing the things that you are struggling with, that you're hating every minute and you're kicking and screaming, one, it doesn't make the job fun. It doesn't make entrepreneurship fun, and you will make mistakes. You won't be at the top of your game. So the fact that you recognize what you're
Hmm.
good at, it's so important.
Well, so I'll go back to the podcast here. So, for instance, based on just this conversation, Kim and I might have had this particular conversation, and we would have said, you know what, that's a good episode. That might be permission to permission to enjoy being in your lane. And so we talk about that. So, some people are initiators and some people are wrapper uppers and some people are in the middle. And that's okay. So you just, as long as you're comfortable in that space, we did an episode recently about bandwidth and just understanding how to develop your bandwidth, because bandwidth is not just time, it's also about mental capacity and what you've got going on the rest of the day and thinking about things like that. There's a business aspect of what we talk about, there's a personal
Mhm.
aspect of what we talk about. um, but permission to me, and I'll explain the whole reason that I wanted to do this particular podcast. Number one, relationships are absolutely everything in life. You have a
Mhm.
relationship with that fire alarm that's going on. You can ignore it. What's going to happen? Potentially the house burns down. You have a relationship with your car, with your spouse, with your child, with whatever it is. You have a relationship and you put into that relationship what that relationship is worth. Permission, to me, this is something I've kind of made up, I guess. Permission to me is the layer of communication that explains to other people how you value the relationship.
Mm.
And so by letting them, by verbally sometimes or just through actions, letting them know that you value their time, then you spend time with them. If you, those types of things. And so that was the permission layer that we've kind of looked at. And the different permission keeps coming up and keeps coming up in different areas. I think it's kind of the new buzzword, and I may have picked up on it before we started the podcast, but
So, did I come up with the topic, permission to stay in your lane?
I think we can have that very soon. We're doing quite a few episodes Saturday morning. We're going to record, and we're going to get it caught up for the holidays, so we can take a break. But no, that's a great idea. Is
Mhm.
understanding, permission to, maybe it's permission to understand your lane and
Yes.
say where it's at. So those are some great topics. Anything that you feel like you need permission for, you likely don't. you
Mm.
you need to give yourself that permission if you feel you need it. And then we joke about that on the show, and that's what the intro of the show says. If you feel like you need it, here's your permission to join David and Kim. But
Right.
most of the time you don't need that permission. Now, wait till the light turns green before you go through the intersection. That is permission. That is taking your life into your own hands. But that's what it's all about, is being responsible and just giving yourself permission to do the right thing.
Love it. And where can you find this podcast?
We've got it on most of the podcatchers out there. Definitely Spotify and Apple and
Mhm.
Google and some of the big ones, for sure, and quite a few of the small ones. And info at your permission to win, if you're interested in giving us feedback or hearing new topics or ideas there. That's where we're at. Permission to win is our. We don't have a website yet. Working on that.
You're working on it. So what is one quote or a Davidism that you have that could be inspiring to other people who are in the entrepreneurial journey, full time or side hustle? What's one thing you would tell them?
Be okay with the idea that your clients get two of three options. They get it fast, they get it good, or they get it cheap. Pick two. It's a triangle, so you can get it fast and you can get it cheap, but you can't. It's not going to. But it's not going to be good. And
Mm,
you get it. So you get it fast and you get it good, but it's not going to be cheap.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
So be comfortable pricing yourself the right way for the right quality product that you've been asked for. Don't just give away the store all the time. And I hate pricing. I am not good at it. I need a sheet to be able to find out, what should I be charging for this, cuz I just want to give it away for free all the time.
Well, I think sometimes creatives and people who are not familiar with it, I think pricing is one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs. And I've been doing this a very long time, and I still can get stuck with pricing. There are
Mhm.
certain formulas out there, but sometimes it's more than just covering overhead. Sometimes it's in our head.
It
Yeah,
is. It is,
definitely.
because sometimes we don't know our own self-worth. I'm really good at telling other people what they ought to be charging, but I'm horrible at telling myself. And
Well, we're going to change that. So, can you let everybody know how to get a hold of you, especially if they would need some video and audio production?
absolutely, my website is davidwhitevoice.com. My email is david@davidwhitevoice.com. Uh, David White Voice on most of the social medias, and I'm trying to remember what my LinkedIn is, but it's not David White Voice, I don't think. But David L. White is how you'll find me on LinkedIn, and look for my picture.
I love it. And I have just loved getting to know you, having the conversation, being in the mastermind with you. And I've seen, your growth, my growth, right? That's what a whole thing is. And I love the fact that you're completely honest, completely transparent. And I know the people out there are going to appreciate that. So you're definitely going to be coming back. I know that.
Yay!
So we are just about at the end. I try and keep this, people don't have the attention span past like, well, 30 minutes. We're at
Hmm.
31. So I'm hoping people are hanging out. So, but I do want to say thank you, David. And for those of you out there who are on the entrepreneurial journey, whether you are just starting, like David's doing a side hustle, or you've been in business 40 years, please reach out to me. I am always looking for guests for you to share your story and share your story for the betterment of other small business owners who could really probably relate to a lot of things you're saying. They need some inspiration, they need some wisdom, they need some best practices from you. So please reach out to me at goldfish at 8simplesteps.net. That's my email. Or you can go to my website, which is 8simplesteps.net. And if you need somebody to have a conversation with on how you can take the hard out of being an entrepreneur, let's book that. Love to see you. All right, we are done for the night. It's a wrap. And everybody, we will be back again soon with another rockstar entrepreneur for another rockstar conversation. Good night, everybody.
Night.